Welcome back, you wonderful and amazing people. I'm G. This is G on Watt. Before we get started, I want to thank everybody that's been jumping on and watching the videos and subscribing and commenting. It's been pretty fun. We're a pretty new channel. Started right at the beginning of the season. I don't have any followers, anything like that. So it's just a small community right now, but we're going to hopefully grow this up pretty big. Well, guys, it is the holiday season. I don't know what you celebrate. I celebrate Christmas. Whatever you celebrate, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is, I hope it is wonderful for you and all of yours. I hope it's a joyous season for you. And I live in the Caribbean. We don't get any snow here, which is why I live here. But yeah, I have my Santa Puss hat. Down here, we don't have any chimneys, so I don't know what Santa goes down. So he sends the octopus down through the piping, and the octopus comes through and fits through all the tubes, goes in, delivers you all your presents. Not really, but I'm a diver, so I like to think that's what happens. But anyway, getting into the season finale of the Wheel of Time. This is the Eye of the World. This is the book. And this is not the Eye of the World. I currently do not have a copy of Eye of the World. I've bought it countless times and gave it away. And fortunately, I had to give away the copy I had, and has not been returned yet. However, we're going to pretend that this is Eye of the World. And for the season, I'm going to do a season overall episode, what I thought of the whole season. However, for this episode, we're kind of going to take the book and we're just going to throw it out the proverbial window. I'm not really going to chuck the book. I love these books. I don't want to throw them. Overall, so far, for The Eye of the World, the final episode, episode 8, I've mixed feelings about this thing, and I'm gonna kind of hopefully break them down. Now, first, I want to say as a reader, more than a little confused, slightly pissed. Yeah. But mostly confused. And you better be able to explain some things, kind of. As a show watcher, holy crap, this was awesome as the show. Now, I am trying to be objective of the show, because I really do like the show. As the show, I think it's really good. Now, veers a lot from the books here. The whole season really has. But it's felt very Wheel of Timey. However, there's a couple spots throughout this episode that I have some questions about. Serious questions. They're later. But overall, for the show, I thought it was pretty awesome. Man, I was throwing my hands up in triumph at some spots. Like, holy cow, I thought there was some great foreshadowing. There was some real wonderful moments that paralleled some other things that I'll talk about, and reasons for things happening, and reasons for things that I didn't like, but I think I know how they may tie them in. But I don't want to go into too many spoilers, guys. This is the last review and deep dive for the season, but we're going to put out plenty more videos, and we're going to go into all these things. I'm going to have spoiler videos where we can really delve into the changes, because, man, we need to talk to the book readers. We need to talk about them. If you're a show watcher and you haven't read the books, I'm going to recommend that you don't watch those videos. Though, I mean, I want you to watch the videos because obviously I want you to support the channel. However, I don't want to spoil anything for you, and all those will be heavy spoilers. So I'm not going to give any of that away here. We're just going to talk about the episode. And for the opening cut, I really like this. This was my favorite next to last weeks with the blood snow, and Tigraine whipping people's butts out there in the midst of giving birth. Just thought it was fantastic. Anyway, we have, in this opening scene, we have Lews Therin Telamon, the Dragon Reborn, the prior Dragon Reborn, having a conversation with the Amyrlin Seat, who he refers to as the Flame. And they're having the conversation about sealing the boar. At the very beginning of the show, we get Moiraine's prologue. Like, this is where it starts with her little speech about the arrogance of the men trying to seal the boar, thinking they could cage darkness. Well, Lews Therin, this shows you a little bit a different story. Like, Lews Therin really was begging them to help, and even says, you know, combined we can't fail, you know, and the Amyrlin just said the White Tower isn't going to be a part of it, and she left. And it really kind of left the men hanging. So the breaking of the world, yes, the men, they successfully sealed the Dark One, but the power for the men was tainted, and now it's corrupted, and it makes them go mad. So after he sealed it, then they ended up breaking the world. And it was also partly the Aes Sedai's fault. I think they were partially to blame, as much as the men, for not helping, you know. Not doing anything in the presence of evil allows evil to win. And, you know, we asked him for help, and he wasn't pleading with them. But I'm sure, you know, we didn't get the full story behind it. But she even said, you made your case and this and that. So I'm sure he went to the Hall of the Tower and talked to all the sisters. And we don't have a lot of information on the Age of Legends. We get it in the prologue of the very opening of the books. We get the prologue in the opening of Eye of the World, which is covered in the little Amazon shorts. If you go in and you click on you pause the menu and you go into the bonus content on your computer or your device. Doesn't really work on the TV and through consoles, I don't think. I haven't been able to pull it up that way, but I can pull it up through the computer. And you just go in when you're watching the show, pause it, brings everything up, tells you all the cast members, who's in the scene, which I'm going to bring some stuff up because they don't actually name him, but it's right there if you read it. So I'm going to question this, and I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to count this not as a spoiler, and I'm going to point it out as something that these characters missed. And I'll bring that up in a bit. But going back to the intro, we get parts of the Age of Legends from that little Lews Therin Telamon, the breaking of the world, in that little animated sequence in one of the first ones. It may be the very first one. And this is sort of that explanation. In the prologue of the books, it's Lews Therin right at the end of the breaking when he realizes everything that happened and Dragonmount is created. And so we don't get much from the Age of Legends. It's all passed down like through story by story by story, like through Gleeman, like Tom Maryland. You'll hear it in different stories, this stuff passed down. So it's very cool to see something right through the eyes of the Age of Legends. And when it panned out to that scene of the city, that was my favorite snapshot of the series yet. And I'm going to do my top 10 of those. So there'll be more videos to come on that. So I thought that whole intro was absolutely fantastic. The conversation, brilliant. Showed the reluctance of the females to help the males in this, where you see the seal on the floor at the end, and it's both white and black, where you need both Sidar and Sidene to work together to do this right, and they only used one part, so it was flawed, and now it's corrupted, and it led to all sorts of problems. So I thought this was a really great opener. we go through the weave and our normal opening scroll, which I think is so lovely, and I never fast forward through it or I never skip it. I love that whole opening. And I'm thinking that next season we might have a different pattern at the end. I think the weave is going to end up being different for the seasons. Sort of how Game of Thrones changed, the map changed as the story changed. When Winterfell had been sacked, it was on fire on the map, and the map reflected different parts of the story. I think the weave in this, where in the first one it wove the Aes Sedai, where a lot of this beginning season was very heavily focused on them, I think that weave's going to change. We'll get more into that later. So then we kick right to Rand and Moiraine up in the Blight, and they both jump to see the dead body all covered with mushrooms growing out of its mouth and everything. Now, I don't recommend you eat those mushrooms. I'm sure they would probably make you see some really funky shit, but don't munch on those. That's probably like the brown acid that they warned you about at Woodstock. It's probably no good for you. And even Moiraine says, don't touch anything. Just don't touch anything. Just like they did in Shadar Logoth. So is Rand going to listen? We hope so. Don't touch anything because everything here wants to kill you. Everything wants to kill you here. And she explained sort of what the blight is, that it's a rot. And they sit down to rest, and they see the 7 towers of Malkir. And it was this nice moment where they go in and you get a little bit of explanation because this is where Lan was from, so you get a little bit more view on it. And Moiraine says, no, that was less than 40 years ago. And, just a year ago, it was 3 miles from Tarwin's Gap, and now it's right on top of it. So it's moving pretty quickly, and I like Moraine's explanation of that. I'm sorry if I skip some cuts here. They have a lot of very fast cuts throughout this episode, going from Moiraine and Rand to Perrin and this, and it jumps a little bit. So I may a few together that are just the same conversation that carries through in the scene. It's just much easier than splitting that conversation up. But we get to Perrin and Egwene, and Egwene is completely upset that they can't follow him, and Perrin's trying to convince her, look, do you not understand that we don't even know where they went into that big mess? And even if we did, how would we ever find them in that? So we obviously can't follow them. And she talks about, that she loves Rand, and that, and I think it's more of like a crush, because this does go on a little bit in the books, but they're aged differently in the books, so the story's a little different, plays out a little different. But it's more that I think Perrin has a crush on her, but he knows it's like, look, this is my buddy's girl, and as much as I like her, it's his girl. So even conflicted as he is, I think that's why he stood up to Rand. He's like, hey, I don't want her, but don't talk to her like that, man, because she's my friend too. So I don't think it's like the crazy love triangle that they portrayed it to be. Though it did make for a nice little moment of real good drama. And then Perrin's just Perrin consoling her, and she's, and you think we'll be all right? And he says, I think we'll always be all right. I think we'll always be all right. And that's just Perrin being Perrin. He's just great. And he's very sort of few words, but when he does speak, he does drop a lot of truth and a lot of wisdom. Though this episode, he did have quite a few lines, actually, which surprised me. I liked it. We've got back to Lan and Nynaeve, and they're overlooking Tarwin's Gap, and Nynaeve confesses to Lan that she wasn't able to track him when she was tracking him, that she was able to track Moiraine, because Moiraine has some tells, just like when you're playing poker. There's always a trail if you know how to look hard enough. It's not, you can't leave no trail. There's going to be some kind of trail. And she says, look, I can tell you how to find her. And Lan just lays it down with like the smooth talker line. Like this should be like in some R&B song. You're fierce and beautiful and you're a lioness. Like, oh my Lord. Like you just see it was just, she just melted. It was this awesome moment. And she's, oh, like wisdom's never wed, but I'll go to the White Tower one day. Maybe things will be different. And Lan just shakes his head like he just knows. He's like, look, I can't. He's like, and I will hate the man. I will hate that man that loves you. But if he makes you smile and you're happy, then I will love him all the same. And that was really awesome and heavy. And it was very close to dialogue from the books, whether it was necessarily in the same spot or how it exactly went down. There, as much as I said at the beginning that there was a lot that diverged from the books, there was quite a bit that was taken sort of right from it. A little of the dialogue and a few of the things that went down, though they changed some things, which I don't know. We'll get them as these changes have occurred. We'll get to them, and I think my confusion. I don't know if it's going to go away. I might have to really, really deep thought this. I'm binge watching this, the whole series here. I'm going to watch every episode start to finish. That's my Christmas present. That's my Christmas day. I'm going to have company. We're watching them start to finish all day long. It's going to be an event. And I'm going to make my final season-long decisions then. Now, we cut to Rand waking up to his hand starting to be grown into by the mossy growth of the blight. Kind of like it was doing to that other fine gentleman with all the mushrooms growing out of his mouth and stomach and all that cool stuff. Yeah, he looked fantastic. So you want to hang around for that. So Rand wakes up real quick and starts, and Moiraine's, it was a dream, and dreams are powerful. And all of a sudden, right mid-word, she gets shanked right through the back of the head and out her mouth and drops dead. And it pops up to who but Mr. Good Old Fire Eyes himself. Now, they keep saying this is the Dark One. Now, I'm not disputing that everybody thinks this is the Dark One. However, if you pause the video, I'm not giving away any spoilers here. If you pause the video and it tells you who's in the shot, what is his name? I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't know if it's Faris or Ferris. Ferris plays the man. Also written Shamael. Not the Dark One. Shamael. Though all the characters think he is the Dark One. However, this is not a spoiler if you pause the video. So, I want to make this clear. I have almost said this character's name every time I've had to call him Fire Eyes since episode 1, or whenever we got our first dream and he flashed in. I really had to think hard on, because you can't call him certain stuff. But anyway, he gets shot in the eyeball by Rand with an arrow and then shoves it in and turns into a man again, which I thought was a really, really cool effect. And then Rand realizes he's dreaming. And they have this really fantastic exchange. Where he's like, oh, yeah, you don't look like you, but you're you. And he keeps looking deeper and deeper in. And he's like, man, you're like unrecognizable. Like, what happened to you? Like, he's just like almost in shock. And he said, so, he goes, what happened to you? And he says, so Lews Therin. And he calls him Lews Therin. He says, what's your plan? You know, hey, well, all right, what's your big plan now? now that we're here and we can talk. Come on, tell me. And I was just, this whole thing was just pretty great. And asked him about and he, you know, draws his sword on him. And he goes, oh, ooh, yeah, nice, yeah, nice sword, man. Nice. No, what's that? Is that Haremart? Oh, yeah. Hey, where'd you get that thing? Oh, your dad. Yeah, dude. Yeah, your dad's been dead a long time, man. Oh, yeah, the sheep herder. Yeah, that dude. Yeah. The guy you call daddy. Okay, what's his name again? Oh, yeah, Shamael Thor. Knew his name. Okay. It's pretty crazy. So again, this is a Shamael. And it says it. As soon as you pause it, I'm not spoiling anything. This is not a spoiler. Like, it's not. Like, they wouldn't have put it there. And there's another change in the names that I want to talk about later that has actually changed since the show started. From the time it started till we got his scene. And I don't know if it's going to be relevant by the end of this episode anyway, but I did want to bring it up because he was in the last episode. Yes, he was in the last episode. Ingtar. His name is now different in the listing. And I didn't notice it until this episode. But anyway, that's neither here nor there right now. The whole end of the dream sequence. There's so many weird cuts and flashes and like this was a oddly edited. I thought it was fantastic to watch, but it's difficult to kind of put together in sequence. So they're having the dream sequence and the Shamael is just totally punking on Rand. He's calling him Lews Therin. And he's like, what happened to you? You're like a child. Oh, yeah. Point your sword at me. Ooh, Haremart. Okay, yeah. And, you know, and he's just talking crap to him. And it was just this really wonderful moment. And Rand just finally is like, I'm dreaming. Wah! And just shanks himself and stabs himself straight through the gut to wake himself up. And I just thought, oh, wow. That was awesome and hardcore. Yeah, that'll wake you up. They'll hope you're dreaming, like and actually dreaming, and not in something we haven't discussed yet. But we can't really get into that yet. That hasn't been brought up in the show, so we won't bring it up here. But Rand wakes himself up, starts himself awake, almost the same scene. Moiraine wakes up, says the same stuff. Rand's all looking around. And says, oh, what did he say to you? And he says, oh, I don't care what he said because I don't believe it. Whatever it is, I don't believe what he said. So let's go. And we get some fast cuts of the view of Tarwin's Gap and Nynaeve attempting to listen to the wind. This is one of the spots. This is a very sort of quick thing. This is one of the spots that I have a little bit of a beef with, and unless they can explain this, I'm not on board with this change. Because Nynaeve is trying to listen to the wind and can't. Egwene comes up and listens and hears it, and Nynaeve is talking, ever since I could channel. Now, that's like one of Nynaeve's things, man. She just knows. It's like Spidey sense. She's like, oh, a storm is coming. Like, she just always knows. And if they're taking that away and giving it to Egwene, that's a little bit of a character assassination. Now, Egwene, we haven't really experienced much of any of the characters yet. But that's like one of Nynaeve's things. Now, Nynaeve also has a block, which we talked about, where she can't control her channeling. Now, my theory on this little scene, to try to justify it in my brain to make it work from the books to the show, though I don't know why I still do that. I think it may be connected to the block, where Nynaeve didn't necessarily know she was channeling when she was listening to the wind, because it's not what they called it. And she's what they referred to as a wilder. She trained herself. She learned to channel on her own. Very much like you saw in Young Swan, working the knot out for her father. That's usually where it comes from in women that learn how to channel on their own. A lot of the time they do it to help with something in their everyday, like there's something that they really want, they use it to get it, or they use it something in their everyday, where Nynaeve used it to listen to the wind. She had the other wisdom to sort of coach her through it. I don't know, she did go to the White Tower, and Nynaeve states this, so I don't know if she directly knew if it was channeling or if it was just something else, because there are other talents, like Min's not channeling, she just sees visions. She's not channeling. She's not using the power. She just sees visions of people. So there are different talents that people have. And this is one of Nynaeve's talents, but it was sort of subconscious channeling. And now that she's actually consciously channeled, I think this is like a light switch sort of block. Now that she's trying to consciously channel, she can no longer subconsciously channel, which is why she couldn't hear it, and Egwene could. That's my theory on that, and it sort of makes the most sense in my head of how they're going to justify some of these weirder changes that occur in this episode. And we ain't done yet. There's more coming. And then it cuts back to Rand and Moiraine, sort of continuing that last conversation where she's still asking him, what did he say? And he's like, no. This is you. You always have a plan beyond plans beyond plans. There's always a contingency. It's like chess with you. You're always steps ahead. What's your deal? And Moiraine pulls out the Sangreal. Now, we talked about the Angreals and the Sangreals and the Turangreals, and there's different they're magic items. And they have different purposes. Some have multi-purposes, some have one purpose. This is an amplifier. It's called a Sangreal and is very powerful. It's what we see on Shamael when we meet him up at the Eye. And at the beginning, when Lews Therin is talking to the Amyrlin, if you look back, he's got them on his hands. And if you read the books and you read the prologue, you would understand exactly where that took place. There's a missing dialogue in the show that doesn't show that. You see it on his hand. Now, is that his, or is it the exact same replica, like an Aes Sedai ring? They were in the Age of Legends, so who knows? It could be the same one, or it could be Lews Therin's old one. I'm saying it's probably Lews Therin's old one that we're seeing on him now. But Rand gets the Sangreal from Moiraine, the little cross-legged fat man. It's that little like jade colored figurine. And she explains, hey, how do you do this? And she starts telling her the story, like, can you teach me to channel? And she says, no, I can't, like, and it's corrupted. And every time you channel, you're going to go a little bit more crazy and a little bit more crazy. I can't teach you to channel any more than you could teach me to channel. It's a male-female thing. It's not the same the way that they do it. They talk about the female is like surrendering to the flow of like the river. And they explain it in the books as the male like wrestling a dragon, like trying to stop a river. And it's like wrestling that river. And it's opposite ends of the spectrum. So, and again, we explained they can't see each other's weaves. Males and females can't see each other's weaves. They see the effects of the weaves, not the weaves. So she's explaining how he's going to figure out how to channel. She says, trust me, when the time comes, you're going to channel. And she says, when she was at the tower, she was having a rough time. And this Aes Sedai that she knew, that she completely looked up to, was like her superhero, used to show up to her private chambers, just the two of them, and beat her with flows of air and fire until she could defend herself with the power. And after a while, she just started defending herself. So this nice Aes Sedai comes in and whips her ass with the power until she figures out how to do it. I guess that you're just going to punch you in the head enough until you learn how to block the head or dodge, So she says, yeah, when he's whipping your ass, you're going to figure it out real quick. And when you do, make sure you channel it into this thing, because it's nice and it's going to help you out and it'll make it hundreds of times more powerful. So I thought that was really awesome. Like, yeah, you trust me, you're going to know. What a great scene. What a great scene. And it cuts from this really awesome, like every scene in this is really good, though I have to leave the books on the shelf back there. I have to leave them there because it upset me when I first watched it. And then I watched it again and it upset me less, but still weird. Still weird. And I have questions. And they better be able to be answered. So we're going to cut to men in the bar, and, Egwene and Nynaeve and Perrin and Loyal all show up demanding to know what she told Rand. And she's like, yo, hey, that's his deal, man. That's personal. That's his deal. You want to know something about you. And all of a sudden she has this crazy vision of just people dropping dead. Nynaeve's like on fire, drops to the floor. All these soldiers drop dead, and she's just horrified. And then all of a sudden, the horns and the alarms sound. Woo. And here it's going to get a little bit heavy. This is a heavy episode all the way through, but Trollocs to Tarwin's Gap. Holy cow, they are amassing on the other side of the gap. Now, Tarwin's Gap is the area, but they refer to the gap as the fortress. But the gap, that cut is the gap. It's like the hot gates from 300 in the Battle of Thermopylae. It's like the hot gates. It's a very narrow cut that you can reduce numbers if you have numbers, but Fal Dara looks like to be in a bit of trouble. They might be in some trouble. That's a lot of Trollocs. And then we cut to Agamar getting his sit rep, and we have Ingtar, so Ingtar's name was changed from Ingtar to Lord Yakota. He was Ingtar all, up until I think maybe the last episode. I don't know when it changed, but I would look at it before, and it was Lord Ingtar Shinoa. So I don't know if they've changed his character or combined his character or quite what is going on now with what happens by the end of the episode. But I really thought that this was Lord Ingtar Shinoa. Like, yeah, one of like the bannermen for Lord Agamar, the same as Uno. Yeah, so there, it gets a little confusing here of that, but I'm gonna stick with calling him Ingtar because that's who he is in the books, and that's what he was labeled as for casting for a long time. So I don't know when this name change came about. I was not privy to it, but anyway, it doesn't really make a difference of what we're going to call him. I imagine it's still the same character. So we have them all walking up, and they're getting the sit rep, and he says there are 60 fades. 60 Myrddraal. Okay, you saw how many Trolloc were running with one Myrddraal. So 60 of them, he says there's 5,000 to 10,000 Trollocs out there. That's a lot of Trollocs. That's a lot of Trollocs. And Uno, in classic Uno style, just says, I'll be pissing on their goat pissing, I don't know. Something about, some foul-mouthed crap about pissing on goat hides or pissing on Trolloc hides. Some weird foul-mouthed stuff in true Uno fashion, which I thought was really funny. And then you get that nice little look out of all the Trollocs amassing. And Ingtar's also finishing up the sit rep, and he says, two of the drawbridge ropes have been cut. And he says, we have dark friends inside the palace. Yeah. Inside our walls. That's what it was. Inside the walls. And then Agamar, without hesitation, just says, okay. We're going to move everybody down into the fortress of Tarwin's Gap. Every fighting man we have. I'm going to bring my personal guard down there. We're going to ride down and we're all going to defend. The women, you're all going to defend the city. So make preparations and ready up for battle. And he looks at Ingtar and Uno and says, you two know what to do. And salutes them. And then they head off. This was pretty awesome. And Rand and Moiraine walk up to the top of the Eye of the World. Now, the Eye of the World in the books, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little weird. It's a little weird, and it's not really explained well. It's a little confusing and quite different from what we see in this episode. Though I really like what we got in this episode because I think it makes a lot more sense. It's much less muddled and confusing. It's much less muddled. But we get Rand and Moiraine at the top of the Eye of the World, which looks like this well, this huge well with these really nice, intricate staircases, all sort of making this repeating sort of pattern going down. It's almost like a palm pattern as the fronds fall off on a palm tree as it makes its way up the top. It's this alternating staircase thing, and if you'd look all the way straight down, I'm sure it would make like a floral pattern. I'm sure it would look quite amazing. Anyway, they show up there, and Rand says, wow, I know this place somehow I know this place. And Moiraine, she's questioning a little bit and doesn't really get anything out of it, and he looks at her and says, wait, didn't you say that anybody that comes down or goes here and gets between the dragon and the Dark One's like dead? Doesn't that include you? Like, just stay here. And Moiraine just gives him this look like, yeah, really, kid? Yo, I'm like Obi-Wan Kenobi right here, man. Like your whole life, I've been waiting for this moment. So I'm coming with you, and shut your mouth. And she just doesn't even say a word. She just says it with her eyes looking at him and just walks right past him. And he doesn't say a word. Stubborn Rand does not protest, which is very out of character for Rand, shall we say. We've seen it quite a bit already, and we'll see more of it in upcoming seasons. And then it cuts to Lan in hot pursuit, and he sees right where they took their little rest, right there, and he gets to peek at the 7 towers of Valkyrie. Has that little nostalgia moment, and you see it real quick, and then click, turns his head, and off. He's after them, and he's on his way. It cuts to one of my favorite, I really think this was my favorite dialogue of the whole episode, other than maybe the dialogue with the Shamael and Rand, when he's like, what are you doing? Do you even know what you're doing, kid? that little one where he's like teasing him about the heron mark blade, when he first reveals, his face to him, and he's not the burned cinder man anymore. And again, not a spoiler, it's a Shamael. It says it in the credits right there, in the when you pause it. It says, hey, I forget his name, Ferris. Shamael quotes the man. Okay, Shamael, one of the Forsaken, and we're gonna go over him in a minute when we get to that main sequence with him. But this sequence with this conversation between Lord Agamar and his sister, Lady Amalisa, where she's helping him into his armor, this was such a wicked moment. And this is warrior spirit right here. This whole conversation about duty, and she's trying to be nostalgic, remember when we were kids, and we'd help our father in his armor and this and that, and you should take his armor, protect him too. And he's like, man, I need my armor for this. And he just lays it down on her that this is our family's duty, period. This city will fight to the last man, the last woman. We will all die before we fold, and that is our duty. And I'm going to take the men, whether it's winnable or not. I'm going to take them to Tarwin's Gap, to the fortress, and we are going to fight, and we're going to hold. And if we don't hold, then you women, you're going to fight, and you're going to hold until you can't hold anymore. And then hopefully, just maybe, we'll give time to let all of our runners that we're going to dispatch everywhere, maybe we'll give them time so other people can get a warning, because that's our duty. That's been our family's duty for 1,000 years. And now it falls on us, and this is what we will do. That whole conversation, so unbelievably heavy. And that's like written from a pure veteran point of view. You've fought battles and you don't want to fight, but when it comes down to it, and even when you know that battle's lost, even it's not your battle to fight, it's Rand's battle to fight, the last battle. This is the beginning of it. This is the first wave coming in, and they're either going to stop it or they're going to slow it. That's it. That's all they've got. They're going to throw everything they have at it, and that's pretty hardcore. That is pretty hardcore. And as they're evacuating the city, you even see that as Amalisa is rallying the troops, all the women making all the preparations. It's absolutely fantastic. And they're letting all the foreigners out. If you're a foreigner and you want to peace out before this is coming, all right. But if you are a citizen of Fal Dara, if you're Fal Dara and you abandon this post, they're like, you're going to get executed. We're going to kill you. We're going to find you and we're going to chop your head off. Bad stuff will happen. You will not abandon your post. You will stand your ground and you will die with the rest of us. That is your duty as a member of this nation. And it's, holy cow, it's awesome and heavy and just wicked. It shows Min piecing out of town on the back of that carriage. And I really love that Agamar says that the last battle is coming. Tarman Gaiden is here. And all we can do is to hope to slow it enough to give them a chance. We must not let the city fall. And Amelisa says, I will not let the city fall, which is pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy. And we cut back to Rand and Moiraine in the eye, and Rand is like trying to piece things together, and we're down at the bottom of it now, and you get this beautiful overhead shot. And on the bottom is the full symbol of the Aes Sedai, which looks like a yin-yang without the dots in it. White is the female half, black is the male half. White is known as the Flame of Tar Valon. The black is known as the Dragon's Fang. The black is symbolized as bad luck, scrawled on stuff. You saw it scrawled on Swan's door after they burned their house down. It was left in the dead sheep way back in episode 1. Nynaeve brings it up when she kills the Trolloc in the pool. We see the Dragon Fang, and we realize it's the other half of the source. It's not good or bad. It's just corrupted. And you see that on the floor, the full symbol with both halves together looking like the yin-yang symbol. And Rand, he's trying to put two and two together. You see it all coming together. And he turns around and he sees this vision of himself as Lews Therin Telamon. And he says, oh, I know, I fought somebody here. I had a fight with somebody here. I can't quite remember. It's weird. It's like a dream, or like a puzzle. You don't have all the pieces are laying there, but you can't figure them out yet. You can't see the whole thing yet. And every time you grab it, it's like grabbing for sand or smoke. It just slips through your fingers. And then he leans down and he touches the Aes Sedai symbol, and instantly it's like flicker. And any book readers know what that means. Flicker, flicker, flicker. It's like one of those moments. And you're going to see more of these moments where all of a sudden reality is just shifted and changed. And you're like, whoa, what happened? And it goes and it starts the entire, in the Two Rivers, Egwene with a baby, sort of alternate reality. Rand's trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And right as that happens, it cuts back out to Shamael standing out there over Moiraine and Rand, because Rand is like in a coma. He's in his own little dream world, locked in his own head there for a minute, the second he touched the symbol on the floor. And Moiraine is down there with him. Shamael comes in. Moiraine tries to channel, and he just cuts her off and shields her like they were trying to do to Logain, and it took two of them. He just shields her, and then you see him go, whoop, and he ties the weave off. And this was what I was talking about back in the episode where they were maintaining the shield. They didn't tie it off because once it's tied off, it's a fixed thing and it can become vulnerable. But this is a male shielding a female, which, yeah, and it's tied off. So now she is 100% shielded from the source. And she still doesn't give up. And though you can see she's terrified and in pain, she still does not back down. She does not back down from him. And like all the characters in this episode, once again, are totally selling their roles as the characters regardless of the scenes and the script that they're given, the heart of our characters is there. Like, she is selling Moiraine. And Ferris as Shamael, oh my God, just fantastic, just killing it. Once again, bravo to all the actors. I won't drag on it. They're lovely, once again. Cuts, and we see all the Trollocs amassing up into the gap. And then you see Agamar and his crew and all his personal guard. They charge towards the gap on foot and then on horse, and the horses split and go in different gates, and I'm sure they all have their own assignments, and they're all going to cover a different spot. All right, and then there's a lot of quick cuts. And it cuts the women prepping the city. We get the cut of Amalisa asking for all the women that can channel. Any woman that can channel, even a flicker, I need all their help. So, we know a couple people that can do that. Maybe they're going to help. We'll have to wait and see. And that cuts back over to Uno and Inkar, who grab pickaxes, and they move the Fal Dara throne. They move Lord Agamar's throne. And then they proceed to pickaxe out the stones underneath the throne. And then start pry barring and like sliding out this giant stone slab. And you're like, what are you digging for? I mean, obviously it's something. Like, you're not, like, where are you going to hide it? Under the throne. All right, well, that's a pretty good hiding spot, seeing as how it's actually, like, mortared into the stone itself. So I thought that was a pretty cool, little moment right there, where they were like, hey, check out our hiding spot. I thought that was pretty ingenious. And I didn't know what the heck they were doing at first, and then once they hit it, I was like, oh, I know what's here. I know what they're going for. And they don't get it quite yet, so we won't give that reveal yet. And then Loyal comes in and tells Nynaeve and Egwene about the call for the channelers. Of course, Nynaeve says, look, I don't want to lose you. I came out here to bring everybody home. I don't want to lose anybody else. We've already lost Rand. We've already lost Matt. I don't want to lose you guys too. But I mean, come on, it's our girls. And then we got to Lord Agamar, who has like one of the best lines of the episode with when all the Trollocs start charging. And they've all got their crossbows, and they're at the ready, and they're in all the murder holes, all filled up. It says, let them buy every step they take with blood. I thought that was pretty brilliant, because they call it your butcher's fee. And then the Trollocs charge. And then it shows the channelers back at the base of the fortress of Fal Dara. I don't know if there's a tunnel that goes up or if they walked up that big hillside. I'm not exactly sure, but they're down at the bottom, at the base of it, out in the big plain. And they're out there watching and waiting because they're the next line of defense before it gets to the city. And then, it cuts to this nice conversation with Peril and Laura, where Perrin's kind of freaking out now, and he's like, freaking out about the Way of the Leaf, and this is shit, we need to fight. And Loyal is, this nice, perfect Loyal speak where it's all slow, and violence isn't always the answer, and long drawn out sentences, and Perrin's like, God, I don't even know what to do. And then Loyal has the brilliant Loyal wisdom and says, when one doesn't know what to do, all he needs is ask. And I was just like, wow, that's so brilliantly Loyal. And it really, really was. It was so good. And, then they head off. All right, well, let's go ask. So Rand Dream Egwene, I don't know. Okay, this is like the alternate. We're gonna call this the Rand dream sequence, I guess, where Rand is like, wait a minute, this can't be real. He's like, what the heck's going on? I'm not buying this. I'm not buying what is going on. Like, this does not feel right. And so he starts testing Egwene. And, and she passes with flying colors, but he doesn't realize he's in his own head. So anything that she's going to know, anything he knows, she's going to know because she's part of his head. So he can answer, it's like trying to trick yourself. Like, she already knows the answers because that's like his mental projection of her. So, of course, she passes the test. And then Shamael tests Rand. And, this whole exchange is absolutely fantastic. And then right as he's going to be testing Rand, it cuts again to Shamael Moiraine. And she's got that blade to Rand's throat. And she's like, yo, I'm messing around. I didn't come here unprepared. You think I won't kill him right here? It's like, yeah, if he chooses the dark, then I'll make a choice for him. And she's like, just ready to cut his throat right there. I love it. And Shamael's actually looks a little perplexed, like, really? You just kill the Dragon Reborn? Interesting. He just had that kind of confused, perplexed look, but also a little curious. I really like Ferris in this role. I think he's plays it really well. It's very intriguing in his facial expressions, and you read a lot from him, and he gives that great cycle of emotions very quickly, and they all sort of pass as this whole little scene is going on, like inquisitive, curious, a little perplexed, maybe a little pissed, but oddly like funny, curious, like if this were like a child saying something unique or like doing something odd to this effect, like, okay, I'll see where this goes. I'll play, but yeah, what a great little sequence right there. And come on, and Moraine's holding a blade to Rand's throat. Like, come on, cut again. There's so many cuts here. Perrin and Loyal go running off to Uno and Ingtar, asking if they can help, and they pitch in with the pickaxes. Perrin's a big lad. Loyal's loyal. He's a big dude. Man, they make short work of that slab, and they pull it out. And what is he? He goes, what is that? And Uno's the bloody Horn of Valere. He's like, what? It's this item of legends ready to summon the 100 heroes with Arthur Hawkwing and his 99 heroes. It's the 100 heroes of the Horn. They're going to come out and ride in the last battle with the Dragon Reborn. So like, yo, the last battle's coming, man. The dragon's been reborn. We got to get this out. It is now time. And the Trollocs are overrunning the city. This may be the last chance. We got to get this out of here. And everybody's just like, whoa. And we'll get to that scene next. I'm sorry. I almost skipped ahead to it. So cut back to Rand and Shamael. This is all just a test. It's all just a test. You hear the conversation between Moiraine and Shamael, and you hear the conversation between Rand and Shamael. Now, Shamael knows Rand doesn't know Jack from Jack, and he's trying to trick him, but also trying to teach him a little, like, yo, dude, like, man, you don't remember anything. Like, he's almost trying to do what Moiraine did for Egwene back in the woods in one of the first episodes, which she uses the blue jewel and gives it to her and gets her to channel, and Moiraine does it a couple times, and then Egwene, the third one, was actually Egwene channeling it. This, I think, is sort of his version of that, where he's sort of directing Rand in the method of channeling, but he's also trying to trick him. Like, he's trying to bring him to the dark. He is. So, can't trust him. And speaking of can't trust him, back in our first Harvalon episode with the death of Crenny and the burial sequence and Steppen and the death of Steppen and all of that, that very heavy episode, at one point, Steppen and Lan are... Steppen is praying to a bunch of idols in front of him. And Lan asks him and says, yeah, oh, you don't see that very often. Those are the Forsaken. And Lan asks him what he's praying for, and he says, well, I need a clear mind. I need a clear mind, so I'm praying to keep the Forsaken away, especially Shamael, the father of lies. Yeah, so this is a Shamael, the father of lies. So he's going to tell you nothing but lies. He's going to sugarcoat it for you and honey talk you. And I think that he was the one that was affecting Sawan's dreams, not the Dark One. Shamael, the father of lies, can affect your dreams. I think he was the one who infected Sawan's dream and made this weird, crazy idea of bringing just Rand to the Eye of the World to go fight the Dark One right now. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense after the whole beginning. The arrogance of all the male Aes Sedai thinking they could, seal the Dark One away forever. Now you want to go send one boy to his death, to go fight him now. Maybe it's because he's still sealed away and he's weak. I think it was just a trick and a big ploy by Shamael. And I think it was put in a way that sort of sugarcoated it for Swan, the same way that we got it. The same way that Rand's getting it right now. And then, Shamael freezes everything and cuts Egwene and gets it really kind of crazy. And then, Rand's screaming for him to stop, and he's got his hand over the wound, and it stops. And it's not quite clear if Shamael channeled that and just undid what he was messing with, or if it was Rand that actually channeled and healed her and did that himself. So it's not really clear. I'm going to say that Rand probably did it through the coaxing of Shamael. Now, Shamael is one of the Forsaken, so he's a bad dude. He's a nasty dude. They're like the baddest of the bad under the Dark Ones. They're like the best Aes Sedai of all time. They're all from the Age of Legends. And, they're all going to be nasty. They're all going to be dirty. They're going to play dirty pool and fight with dirty tactics. And they're all quite powerful. And so getting back to the scene, Shamael is in both of these scenes. He's in there with Rand. The cut on Egwene, Rand heals that. Out in the actual reality, or Moiraine's perceived reality, she puts like a cut on Rand's neck. Like, after he says he's channeling, I don't know what he's doing, and this and that. And Shamael just keeps trying to bait her. He really does. And he's trying to teach Rand to embrace the power. And it keeps cutting back and forth, and he tells Moiraine, oh, he's channeling. What's he going to choose? Do you even know what he's channeling? And just baiting her, seeing if she'll cut his throat. And cuts back out to our scene of the battle outside of Fal Dara, and you see the girls linking. And it shows them prepping to use the power, and they have a small group, and Nynaeve and Egwene walk up, and she asks them, hey, it's no surprise that you're here. So they're going to link, and they're going to all send their channel through Amarlisa. Well, the fighting at the fortress is getting wrecked, It is getting wrecked. They can't hold him off. And Lord Agamar gets staked to the wall by a Trolloc, which is one of those things that you're going to have to be able to answer for in the books, because that changes some stuff. Like, serious stuff. Late. Yeah, it just changes some stuff. Now, I don't want to dive into it, but that was a hell of a death that we saw, or is assumed, because those Trollocs come pouring out of there after that. They come pouring through those gates, so they made it through. And I don't know if all the guys inside are currently dead or they're still fighting, but there's a lot of Trollocs pouring through. And the girls link up, and they just see this huge wave of... they see this huge wave coming at them. An absolutely huge wave. I'm sorry, I got lost on my notes there. I set them down, and then I think one of the pages flipped on me. Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. So, sorry. So the battle's going crazy, and this battle is awesome. Like, the whole sequence, and there's a lot of really fast cuts. It's edited quickly, but I thought it was edited quite well. It keeps you sort of moving on that narrative very quickly, and even though it's jumping back between Shamael and Rand and Shamael and Moiraine and the fortress, it's got these quick little dash cuts. It's almost like little Dan Brown chapters, where like a chapter could be a page and a half. Not like a Robert Jordan chapter where a chapter's like 60, 70 pages. So it's got all these really cool cuts, which makes it visually impressive, but difficult to sort of speak on. So the whole battle is going on, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping in. I'm going to just cover this whole end of this battle with the girls, or what we see as the end of the battle. So the Trollocs are pouring through. We don't know if everybody in the fortress is dead. It appears that they're probably quite dead. However, it's not confirmed, and unless I see a body, I guess, it's never confirmed. But anyway, the Trollocs are pouring through. Amalisa's got all the girls linking, and she is just ripping down power, and we see our first casualty get burnt to a cinder from drawing too much of the power. And she is just becoming a big pillar of light. And the girls, if you look, Nynaeve has massive amounts of waves going into her. Same with Egwene. Way more than these other two ladies. Like, so you obviously know their power level is way, way, way higher. And Amarlisa has a sort of parallel moment. Like, she knows she's drawing too much of the power. She knows she's drawing too much. And she knows that the gap is falling. And she pulls a total Manetheren moment when the Queen of Manetheren explodes in a ball of the one power and basically nukes the landscape, nukes all the Trollocs and all the Dark Friends and everything in its path, but burns herself to a cinder in the process. We see an exact parallel, and it's almost identical, an identical parallel to that right here. And she 100% would have burned herself to a cinder. She could not possibly handle that much power. Now, if Nynaeve or Egwene were the lead of that link, I don't know if everybody would have died. There's some weird stuff with the power levels and linking and stuff like that, and different weird stuff like that. And that may have contributed to her burning out, because after this huge blast goes through and just starts blowing chunks of Trolloc into freaking meat fetty all over the place. Holy cow. The just the wave of destruction that went through. I was actually tickled my heart quite a bit because there's a scene later on in the books referring to a certain set of wells that I'm not really going to go into, but it's pretty horrifically described, and I'm kind of glad that they weren't afraid to blow apart 10,000 Trollocs into a big mass of blood and meat across the entire field of Fal Dara on the way to Tarwin's Gap. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm sorry that a bunch of the fine ladies got burned themselves to a cinder using the one power doing that. Including Nynaeve, who was being burned out when she says, I can't let it go. Because even after she fired the thing, she couldn't release it. She couldn't release it. It was like a runaway train. And she's, saying, I can feel everything on earth, every breath, every heartbeat, all that, all simultaneous. And Nynaeve saw that Egwene was starting to burn. And so she grabbed her and channeled and saved Egwene. And in turn, sort of sacrificed herself. And gives her the women's circle speech, about you're not alone. And when you feel your braid, I'll always be here with you. We went before you. Very heavy stuff. Very, very heavy stuff. And I thought it was really interestingly done. Though I have so many questions and I'm so confused, I still think it just looked awesome. And I mean, for the show, it makes fine sense. Like, nobody, I don't know any better for the show, but for the books, I'm so confused. But all right, it's okay. I think the show is being pretty great. So we cut from the destruction that just happened on the fields of Fal Dara, and it goes back to Rand and Shamael, and Rand is starting to channel. He's starting to channel, and it looks like he's gonna fall for the deception of Shamael, and then he starts grabbing the sangreal, little kneeling jade object in his pocket, and Moiraine can see this. She sees it move in his pocket, and he's unconsciously pulling it towards his hand like the Force. She sees it move. She knows he's fighting. She knows he's fighting. And he goes right from that dream sort of sequence into right in your face, sticks it right in Shamael's face, and then sort of blows him up. And it's awesome. He keeps tempting Rand. You can have whatever you want, and he keeps tempting him, and Rand keeps denying it. Very similar to another story about a fellow named Jesus. And he keeps denying the Dark One, or Shamael, but he thinks he's the Dark One, so he keeps, he's fighting. And Rand refuses and refuses and refuses. And then he just blasts Shamael, and it looks like he disintegrates. Like he hit him with balefire, but that was not balefire, I do not believe. I think he just knocked him out of the realm. I don't think he killed him. Or maybe he did. I don't know. But he cracked the seal on the floor. The seal of the Aes Sedai when he blasted Shamael. And Moiraine is shocked by this when this happens. And it kind of cuts away. And we don't get to see the direct after effect. And it goes up to Perrin, who saw Podden Fane. And he's chasing him down, and he saw him in the city, and he's like, "What the hell is going on?" He sees the bat, and he runs around the corner. See Podden Fane and the two Myrddraal have, I forgot how they got in. Podden Fane knew the secret password, so when Ingtar said, "There's dark friends in our walls," that was true because Podden Fane knew the secret passcode to get into the gate. He knew the secret knock sort of thing. certain phrase that you have to say, and if you say anything different, you're not getting in. And that those two poor guards were not prepared for a couple mid-roll and Pod and Fane, and they got their heads lopped off real quick. And then he was in, and Perrin sees him when they're in the throne room with the horn, and he kind of follows him. And then he runs into the bat in the hallway, the bat again, and he hears some, sort of sound like the sounds of battle, hears a clanging, runs out, sees Uno on the ground, bleeding all over the place. It looks like Ingtar's dead, and Loyal on the ground with Pod and Fane over the top of him. And Pod and Fane shanks Loyal twice with the friggin' cursed dagger. What the F is going on? You shanking my boy Loyal? Really? We may have to have some words about this. Now, if you can tie this all together and make this make sense, I'm down. But there's a lot of dead people around right now that, without giving away spoilers, are not finished with their roles that they play. I'm confused. One of the big moments of confusion right here. Like, Pod and Fane shank Loyal. Rafe Judkins. Next thing you're going to tell me that is the Trollocs ate Bella. Well, anyway. I didn't know what to make of that whole scene. I was very upset by that. Perrin, also very upset. Excuse me. Wow. Came out of nowhere. Perrin, also very upset about that. And is, like, sort of on the verge of, like, going violent. Like, he keeps looking at the axes. He keeps looking at the axes. And, he finally grabs one, and then Pod and Fane just sits there and tells him, he's like, what, you think I drag my ass up to those mountains every year just to make a couple bucks off some freaking sheep farmers? It's like, you're crazy. There's 5 Taveran in your freaking village, and you're all important in some way. And, we're gonna bring them all. And as he's narrating, he's talking about it, he goes, and some will turn to the shadow. And as he's narrating, it cuts to a scene of Barney Harris, which I think was just probably a cut from something they already had, with this very sort of sinister look on his face, staring up at the White Tower. He's looking for his dagger, I think. That's what I think. Which Pod and Fane now has. It's kind of what I think. So yeah, I mean, Pod and Fane's actually being very real with Perrin. He's like, well, yeah, you're coming over to the Dark One. That's my master wants you over here, and eventually we're gonna get you. And then it cuts back over to Rand and Moiraine, and he tells Moiraine that look, I'm not going. Like, she says something about we can't go back to Fal Dara right away or something. I forget how she worded it, but he says, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. And I want you to promise me something. I want you to tell them that I died. I didn't make it out of here. She tells him I can't lie. And he goes, yeah, whatever. Figure out a workaround or whatever. And just a very weird departure from the books. And again, I'm trying not to just leave it on that. But, yeah. They're not going back to Fal Dara, yeah, but then Rand says, no, I'm going off on my own. Excuse me. Sorry. It's late. I watched the videos a couple times, but yeah, it's quite late. So we're winding up here, guys. This is just about finished up. This is the season finale, so we're gonna It finishes big, I tell you that. Um, and it cuts back over from Rand and Moiraine's conversation where he's telling everybody, hey, tell him I died, over to back to Fane and Perrin, and he's telling, and Fane tells him, this is not the end. This is so not the end. This is just the beginning, kid. And which I thought was a great allusion to there are no beginnings nor endings, but this was a beginning from the books. He tells him, Rand may be the dragon, but you all have a part to play, which I thought was really, really cool. And then he just kind of leaves with the Horn of Valere and the dagger. Yeah. So they had the Horn of Valere, then they lost the Fane. And lots of people died. Lots of people died. Lots of Trollocs died. That was awesome. I still don't know what to make of some of these deaths, and or if they're really dead, or if they're going to be healed. And speaking of, it cuts back over to after Fane heads out and Perrin looks out over the field of the dead in shock. Cuts back over to Egwene crying over Nynaeve, and I didn't think Nynaeve was dead. When it showed all the embers, the sort of fissures in the skin that were glowing, once those other women burned out, theirs just faded and it went dark, like the fire went out, black. Even when Nynaeve is laying there in Egwene's arms, you can see the glowing lines in there. So I don't think she was gone. I think she was just hurt. Those other ladies were gone. I mean, it's just testament to the power and the abilities of Nynaeve and Egwene that we're just learning about. They're like Bambi right now. They haven't even grown up yet. Just wait till they figure out once they know what they're doing or think they know what they're doing. But yeah, so Egwene ends up healing Nynaeve, which is so weird. It's like they're giving Egwene Nynaeve's role. I don't understand why any of those couldn't have been shifted around, where Nynaeve could have healed Egwene and listened to the wind. But I think maybe it just has to do with her block. Again, we'll theorize more on that in later videos. Yeah, she's that strong and brings her back. That's just insane. Then we have Rand heading off into the Blight, and just wandering off into the Blight. I'm so confused. I don't know. Does he have a destination out there, or is he just going to go wander the Blight? Because that's not a smart idea. Though it's a total Rand thing. Hey, don't do that. Well, I'm going to go do that now. Sort of thing. Moiraine expressed how dangerous it was. And, especially for foolish young boys that get in over their heads. So maybe that was just a little foreshadowing. I don't exactly know what's going to happen with that storyline and where they're going to go or how they're going to tie that in, because there has been such a huge departure from the books. Though I do believe I understand sort of why the need for it, and it had to do with Matt. So maybe some of these changes just take place because of that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to have a lot of questions, and they're not going to get answered until next season. And we sort of end with Lan coming into Moiraine, and she's pretty crushed. She's pretty crushed, and Lan's like, hey, unseal the bond. It's just, I can't touch the source. So she's shielded by a male Aes Sedai, which in theory should only be able to be broken if she can break through the shield, if she's strong enough to break the shield, or if a male Aes Sedai comes over and unties it and lets it fall, lets the weave dissipate. Those are like the only two ways she's really getting out of this. So I'm curious as that. But what she's holding in her hand looks like a piece of marble or quartz. Land comes in and it's Quendiar. And Quendiar is an unbreakable material made by the One Power. And once you make something of it, it lasts forever. Like it lasts forever. I think this symbol on the floor is not necessarily the seal to the Dark One's prison. I believe it's his first seal. And I think that it's either broken or now damaged, because he breaks the tiling when he blasts a Shamael. So this is sort of how I feel about that Quendiar. It very well could be the first of the Dark One's prison seals, which they haven't really mentioned, but they're talking about Quendiar. This is the first fight. It's at the Eye of the World. I think this might be the first of the seals, either to be broken or to be damaged, not necessarily fully broken. But she's holding broken pieces of it up. So who knows? We'll have to watch and find out. And then we get the very end of the episode with the Shan-Chen, and it was absolutely nuts. Their army looked like an old Chinese army or navy rolling up, and their helmets are just wicked. The costumes are incredible. They're really uniquely described in the book. So I'm curious to see how all the different sort of fashion costuming for the Shan-Chen is going to come into play. Now, they don't name him, but it was Megan, Moiraine's Blue Aja sitter, that met her in the spa, said, hey, there's disappearing ships out west. And I said, I know who that is, and I didn't think we were going to get him this season. I thought we were going to get him at the very beginning of next season. However, I just knocked my microphone over. However, I did really like the end of the season finale, just mash right there. So it shows all the ships, and then all of a sudden, a couple ladies come out, a couple ladies with some like gold ball gag sort of pacifier things in their mouths, and then the women start yelling at the others, and they start channeling. Now, we don't know much about, if you've read the books, you know about this culture. Their channelers work in tandem. It's called a Suldam and a Damane. And there's a bracelet and necklace combo that I kind of liked the way that they sort of played it. It was the bracer, and then I think it was the gag, and then that entire collar and shoulder piece is what they're going to use for the collar. I think that's going to be the whole thing for the Damane. It's described differently. It's more like a dog leash in the books. It's really, I think people would just find it a little demeaning, and a little more demeaning than it has to be. And I don't know how people would react to essentially having a silver dog leash led to a silver bracelet. Like it's like a dog collar with a silver to another leash, like you're walking your dog. And that's how the Shan-Chen have channelers. So yeah, really wild to see that crazy tsunami of water that they just channel up, and then cut to the end. Holy cow. I'm still conflicted and confused. Even as a book reader, I have no idea what the heck they're doing now. I hope that they can tie up loose plot threads. I understand why some of the changes were made, some of the necessity for those changes. And yeah, overall, this episode, wow. I'm not going to give it a rating. I'm still saying that the last episode, episode 7, that was my favorite episode. That was my favorite episode. This one was very action-packed and had a lot of great moments in it. But I still think 7 was my favorite just for some of the exposition we got. Though this did have a lot of really great stuff. We got the Age of Legends. We got to see the Forsaken for the very first time. Though all of our characters keep saying he's the Dark One. Though he's listed in the credits as a Shamael, and the Shamael is a Forsaken. He's not the Dark One. So it's not a spoiler. And if you think you're fighting the final boss, really, in the first fight, and nobody's ever played a freaking video game or read any kind of adventure novel, man, you got to level up a little bit. Can't go and fight the end boss right away. Sometimes you do, and you just get your ass kicked into like the last century, and then you have a big long journey back, fighting all his minion along the way and saying, "Oh, I'll get you back." But it's not really this kind of journey. That fight I thought was really good. This was a really deep and heavy episode. I'm going to have to watch it a couple more times. I am going to watch the entire season on Christmas Day with a bunch of my friends, and we're going to have a nice little watch party, and we're going to watch them all. Now, guys, I'm G. This is G on Watt. It is the end of the season. Season 1 is done. Now we got a long wait. But we're going to have a lot of different videos coming out from now till the next season. We're going to theorize a lot of stuff. We're going to expand on a lot of stuff. We're going to make a lot of cool little videos. If you have questions on stuff, comments on stuff, you want to see me cover certain topics from this, feel free to put it down into the comments below. And guys, I know there's a lot of new subscribers that have come on since we started the channel here at the beginning of the season, and I want to thank you all. I want you to, if you like what you're seeing, please guys share this with your friends. If you know somebody that watches the show that has questions, send it their way, or give them the link. Like, subscribe, all that good happy jazz, because it really helps. It does. I had I went to bed one night with like a couple views and woke up in the morning and had a lot more views. Like, it was not a lot, like nothing viral, but still it felt pretty good to have quite a few views right overnight, one night. It was interesting. So I thank you guys for hitting all those up and putting the likes and all that. I liked the season, guys. I liked it overall. I liked the show. I'm confused. I know it's not the books. I'm confused, but I'm very curious to see where they go, and I think they've got a lot of good setup done. I think they got a lot of the good setup done to where we can start moving and establishing some other things along the way. I think our timeline's going to increase. I'm very interested to see where they're going to go with the Sean Shen on the Western Shore next season, how they're going to portray them. And I'm very much looking forward to the stuff from the next book, The Great Hunt. And guys, if you haven't read it, read The Eye of the World. It's a great story. And keep reading after that. Read The Great Hunt and then The Dragon Reborn, and keep going on it. And when you're reading the books, if you're watching the show for the first time, you'll love the books. They're pretty fantastic. But guys, I'm G. This is G on Watt. Thank you all for sticking around all season. Stick around. There's a lot more to come, and we will see you next time.